We're on. Yay, we're on. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you're watching this in the future. If you are watching this in the future, thank you for joining us for our latest SilviaFindings live stream event. My name is Mark. I'll be your live stream presenter today. We thought we would freak everybody out by actually getting started right on time. Are we on time? Yeah, what is it? 10:31. Oh, 10:31 where I am. Who knows what 31 it is where you are, if you're not local. We've been spending these past 81, is it 81 episodes now? 81, 82, something like that? We've been spending these past 80-ish episodes cataloging all of our products slowly but surely. We've done the pendants, we've done the rings, we've done bails, we've done earring settings, we've done findings, we've done, golly, we've done everything except the last things we're doing now are the finished chains. And actually today, episode 81, 82, God, I can never remember. But it was just in the social media thing. Anyway, whatever it is. This is the last episode of cataloging our stuff. 82, thank you. That's Lise, right? That's got to be Lise. It's right on it. Thank you, Lise. Yeah, 82. So this is the last one of cataloging stuff. After this, we'll be doing, I'm going to have to come up with actual content. With actual things. I think next week, and I meant to send Lise a blurb about this so we can get this on all the social medias. Next week, because I'm just finishing up chains. And one of the things, we have some really, really thin woven, like almost snake, well, they are snake chains, little box chains, little things, or little tiny chains that are too small to get a jump ring through, or a reasonably sized jump ring. I suppose you can get like a 28 gauge jump ring or something that might work, but you know, you'll have to end up soldering that closed anyway, and I've just spoiled the surprise. So, you know, how do you use those things? And I'm going to demo next week we'll do just a quick little soldering demo, how to solder jump rings or other findings to the ends of a chain to make those work, those chains and things. Now the problem with the thing, and I'm going to go in detail, huge detail next week, the problem with soldering links onto chains or any chains is because the chains are all interlinked, right? It's a link next to a link next to a link. And when you're soldering something with silver solder, not like the low temperature solder, like with a soldering iron or a soldering gun. I mean, that is soldering, but that's not really the jewelry soldering. And I'll explain all the science next week, so get ready to have a nap when I do that part. But the problem with soldering is that you've got to heat the pieces that you're joining together to the temperature that the solder melts and flows at. And the problem with that is when the solder becomes liquid and it's comes in contact with, you know, pieces of metal that are the temperature that it'll melt at, it'll just flow over the surface of the piece, and it'll end up, you know, soldering 3 or 4 or 5 or more links at the beginning of the chain together. And you end up with a real ugly, stiff thing, and I'm going to show you how to avoid that thing. But spoilers for next week, for episode 83. Yeah, soldering. And then the week after that, I think I'm going to do something fun with some resin. Mix up some of that 2-part resin and show you something cool, because we have so many great new findings for you know, that kind of thing. You know, bezel cups, bezel pendants, bezel rings. That are a lot of people are using for that commemorative jewelry, you know, kind of thing. And we have a couple of other pendants, you know, polar bears and butterflies and dragonflies that are not theoretically made for that. I think they're more intended for just to put a cab in there and then have the frame be thing. But the frameworks are so cool that to me it screams, oh, you got to pour some resin in there, you know, kind of thing. Anyway, neither here nor there. Spoiler for next week, episode 84. And then I got to come up with some more stuff, simple things to do. I also wanted to do another prong, because we did that. We did that like a couple weeks ago. We did a prong thing, how to dress your prongs. And then we'll kind of separate those maybe into a separate playlist or something, so the catalog stuff can all be in one place. Anyway, shipping is great everywhere except for the inclement weather in some parts of the country. I know we're expecting a blizzard here. We're supposed to wake up to all kinds of snow this morning, but there was none. But it's still imminent. You can kind of feel it in the air. I love that that feeling when the atmosphere is ripe to bursting, and it's almost like you can feel the pressure in the air. It's almost like everything is very close, even though it's wide open. Does that make sense? Anyway, so I expect there'll be a blizzard here today at some point. Whatever, we're used to it. We're Canadians. Actually, we're not used to it here on the West Coast in Vancouver. Oh my gosh, a little bit of snow, and it's Snowpocalypse 2022. Which is always fun to watch, because I'm from Montreal, right? So East Coast, where snow is like, oh, whatever. There were no snow days at school when I went to school. And oh my gosh, I sound like an angry man yelling at cloud, right? My kids always make fun of me. Okay, boomer, right? And I walked uphill both ways to and from, well, whatever, neither here nor there. Just funny to think of that. For what it's worth, Vancouver is very hilly, so there's a lot of danger as far as traffic goes and stuff. But anyway, you don't want to hear about that. So shipping everywhere is looking up. Things are slowly but surely. Infrastructure is getting back to something resembling normalcy, I guess. Like I said, there are still some issues with the East Coast, and they had some blizzards, and things are not looking good. So things are a little bit slow out there, but everywhere else seems fine. I don't know. No complaints. I do have one, not a complaint, but I guess an issue with, and it shouldn't bother me, I should just get over it. We got this really bad review on Etsy. It was a 1-star review, it didn't bad, but the fellow who wrote the review said that the mold was bad and he couldn't make it work, so he's gonna cut off what's on there and solder his own prongs to it and make it work. And the problem is that the ring that in question, the prongs on the ends are not really prongs, they're chevrons that you're meant to carve some place out of and then push into the thing. And they're really tricky if you're not used to how to do them. So I just need to get over it and accept the fact that, a bad review is a bad review. And with Etsy, it doesn't matter if it's a 1-star or a 4-star review. They weight it the same. If it's a 5-star review, it's great. If it's anything less, it's considered bad. So, anyway, I'll get over it. Let's get to the chains, right? Because that's why you're here, right? Is that really why you're here? That's why I'm here. Until next week, we'll do some more fun things next week. I can do this. Here's the button. Our first item, SFC0, put this in the frame, SFC056 with a retail price of $23.06 a foot and a wholesale price of $13.96 a foot. And this is, I guess, kind of considered like a Figaro chain, even though the links are not, 3-in-1, which are kind of more traditional. These are 6 links in between, right? With a big link in the middle, and these are all with that. I mentioned last week there was a chain that I totally love, that the links individually are made with triangular wire, right? They're kind of beveled on the outside, tapered to a point, and all of these links, the small ones and the big ones, are made with identical stock, identical wire, but they look different just because of the the edge geometry of the, or how big the rings are. So, very cool. Very awesome chain. I don't know. SFC 057 with a retail price of $37.07 and a wholesale price of $22.44. This is just like a classic flat cable chain. Pretty thick. The links themselves are pretty thick, probably 18 gauge thick. 18 gauge, maybe 20 gauge thick. Anyway, nice heavy chain. Perfect for nice big long necklaces, right? That big, like a 30-inch necklace or something. Beautiful for that kind of thing. Or, you know, if you're doing you're doing a little clutch or a little purse and you need a strap for that, that kind of chain will also work beautiful for that. Yeah, we don't just do jewelry here. We can do whatever you want. SFC 058 with a retail price of $10.01 a foot and a wholesale price of $6.06 a foot. And this is just a classic, nice, dainty, fine. Let me just get this all going the same direction. Curb chain, right? Where the links are oval and then they're twisted to give you that flat sort of look, right? Anyway, there you go. Super nice, kind of delicate chain, kind of light, right? So, I don't know, really versatile. I like using these kind of things if I'm doing like a necklace where I'll have like a little component thing, and then I'll have a section of chain, and then another little component and a section of chain, and then you can count out exactly how many links pretty easily with these. That was super popular. Necklaces. SFC 059 with a retail, no, that's the meter price. So just so you know, we have all of our prices chained, or all of our chain prices available by the foot or by the meter, right? So, I mean, the price per inch is going to be the same. We just did the math to figure it out in case you wanted to order by meter. That's available for all our, well, I guess any customers that are anywhere that's not the United States. I think Australia still uses feet, right? SFC 059 with a retail price of $23.78 a foot and a wholesale price of $14.39 a foot. And this is marked as a Figaro chain. Yeah, I mean it is, because it's 3 small links with 1 bigger oval link, right? It's not kind of like the most traditional Figaro chain, because the links are not the bigger links in between the trios aren't noticeably bigger. I mean, they are noticeably bigger. Never mind. Look at this gorgeous Figaro chain. I could talk myself out of it. Right, so it's nice. It's kind of not huge, not thick, not very bulky or dense. It's kind of light, but it's sturdy, right? Almost soldered closed links. Our next item, SFC 060 with a retail price of $18.09 a foot and a wholesale price of $10.95 a foot. This is a oval Rolo chain, right? Or some people call it Belker. I never know. I've never heard anybody else pronounce the word. I've only ever seen it written, so I make up my own pronunciation, right? That's how it works. In the real world, Belker or Belcher, Belcher. Anyway, people call it Rolo chain, which is what I like to call it. And it's just a low dome wire, right? So it's domed on the outside, rounded on the outside, flat on the inside. Nice simple links. Oval links. Here's a round Rolo chain. SFC 062 with a retail price of $23.71 a foot and a wholesale price of $14.35 a foot. Right, another Rolo chain, domed on the outside, flat on the inside. These links are about 4 millimeters, I would say, 4 millimeters. That's what it says on the tag, 4 millimeters. I got it right. Right. Nice thing about Rollo chain is it's nice and super sturdy. And you can do some really super interesting things with stacking these in layers, right? Kind of thing. And then running other chains up, like real tiny string chains up through the links and then down through and back and forth. And you can do all kinds of weird, cool things with that. Anyway. We've got a bunch of these. Actually, every one of the next 6 chains are all new. I don't think they're on the website, but they're new. They were only came in middle of last year. So if you've only seen our chains at shows, you haven't seen these. But to be fair, they're all pretty simple. There's nothing really mind-blowing, except for the prices, which are awesome. SFC 105 with a retail price of $2.25 a foot and a wholesale price of $1.41 a foot. And this is just a classic tiny cable chain. They're about 1.2 millimeters wide, 1.6 millimeters long, those individual links, right? So it's a nice, delicate chain, and apologies for the tarnish. I tried to clean these up a little bit before he came on the live stream, but you never know. SFC 106 with a retail price of $2.41 and a wholesale price of $1.51 a foot. And this is just a little bit bigger than the other one. 1.2 millimeters is the width again, but 1.8 is the length of these chains, of these links. Another simple cable chain, right? Here's another one with the links are a little bit beefier on this one. $3.38 a foot is the retail price, and $2.11 a foot is the wholesale price. Again, 1.2 millimeters wide and 1.6 millimeters long are the links, but the links are a little bit beefier than the previous one, right? So here's the other one where ostensibly the links are the same size. It's just that this one is a little bit, the wire stock that is used to make them is a little bit heavier. So it's a little bit beefier chain, a little bit heavier chain. But it's not, I say beefy, but relatively speaking, this is not a big, thick chain by any stretch of the imagination. It's just kind of a perfect, dainty cable chain. Can't go wrong. And you can actually probably get a pretty good sized jump ring through that. Probably like a 20 gauge jump ring maybe. But maybe not. Now we're getting quite a bit thicker SFC 108 with a retail price of $6.71 a foot and a wholesale price of $4.19 a foot. These are 1.6 millimeter wide rings and 2 millimeters long, right, the links. But they're actually quite a bit thicker. This is getting into more definite. It looks gold in that. Does it look gold on the stream? It looks gold on the camera here, but anyway, it's just tarnish. I tried to clean them. I did. And SFC 110 with a retail price of $10.03 a foot and a wholesale price of $6.27 a foot. This another cable chain. 2.2 millimeters are the width of those links, and 2.8 millimeter are the length of those individual links. And they're quite a bit thicker stock than the other one, so they're quite a bit heavier. You know, relatively speaking, you know, relative to this, right, as far as thickness goes, but definitely not, you know, super thick relative to something like that, the Rollo chain, which is just crazy heavy. Anyway, and we've got a few interesting handmade ones coming up. SFC 0, that's the meter price. 041 with a retail price of $23.12 a foot and a wholesale price of $13.99 a foot. This is another hand soldered chain, right? It's all just these twisty wire round loops. And I think probably the wire pieces in this are about a 20 gauge maybe. The wire links, the twisted wire links. Very cool.
SFC 043 with a retail price of $37.85 a foot and a wholesale price of $22.91 a foot. This is just a alternating chain, cable chain with the little tiny round Rollo links and the nice big oval links. And this is getting pretty thick. Probably, I think the links themselves are, 18 gauge, maybe 20 gauge, maybe 19 gauge, something in between that. Something a little bit bigger than, it's definitely bigger than 20 gauge, but I don't think it's quite 18 gauge. But the links are nice and thick, nice and solid. Just all around super versatile chain. Here's another kind of like interesting take on, not really a Figaro again, but SFC 044 with a retail price of $56.47 and a wholesale price of $34.18. Right, this is just a lovely low dome, I guess kind of like Rollo links, right? These low dome wire links. Can you see that? Domed on the outside, flat on the inside. Let me just get this where it's back in focus. And then there's just two little oval links in between. So the big links are going to be alternating planes, right? Whereas with a Figaro, all of the big links would all be facing the same direction because you have an odd number of links in between, right? Whereas this, because you have an even number of links in between, when this is just sitting flat, you're going to have, the big links facing one way, opposite way, perpendicular, back and forth. Kind of interesting. You don't really notice that kind of thing when you're wearing it, or it's all just going to lay down as it wants. But it's just a cool effect. SFC 045 with a retail price of $24.23 a foot and a wholesale price of $14.66. This is another kind of an interesting sort of Rollo chain. It's not really a Figaro chain because those are normally, not. But this is just, it's kind of like a Figaro / Rollo hybrid chain where you got the big links, right? Two big links with 5 small links in between. So kind of interesting, kind of nice, very cool. There's all the big links and there's all the small links. Here's another very cool handmade chain. SFC 047 with a retail price of $42.07 a foot and a wholesale price of $25.46 a foot. And this again is kind of another Figaro-ish chain with these big biconvex loops. It's a word, look it up. And these smaller circular links in between. Right. Actually, biconvex is just a fancy word for two curved sides. Or two opposing curved sides. I can never remember. It's something like that. Anyway. So these are nice big links. Nice big flat links. Super interesting chain. Again, I don't know why, but for me, these big chains look great when they're mixed with other chains, like if you had something like that and maybe something like that and maybe something a little bit smaller to give it a little thing, right? And then when they got down to the bottom, if you had them just alternating the lengths of them, I don't know. I'm not a designer. But I've seen lots of very cool jewelry that way. SFC 048 with a retail price of $20.69 and a wholesale price of $12.52 a foot. Here's another kind of interesting alternating chain with plain and twisted wire loops, right? So the links themselves are all the same size. They're just different textures, alternating textures between the twisty wire loops and the plain smooth loops. Very cool. And we're getting there. I'm on the last tray here. SFC 049 with a retail price of $22.48 and a wholesale price of $13.60. And this is it's a very cool chain where the links are kind of, I don't know what you'd call them. They're oval, but they're, you know, kind of like diamond shaped, right? There's sort of like a hint of more defined corners than there would be on a regular oval link, if that's a easy way to describe it. Anyway, so these little diamond shaped links, they're not diamond cut or anything, they're just plain, you know, round wire links, but I like the shape. It's a little more interesting than just a regular old oval shape. And you know, $22.48 a foot for sterling chain, you just can't go wrong with how good this link is. And those links are made of definitely 20 gauge wire. That's 20 gauge. Absolutely. SFC 050 with a retail price of $38.19 a foot and a wholesale price of $23.11 a foot is the wholesale price. And this just a plain, well, I don't know, you can't really call, can you call anything plain anymore? Classic round linked cable chain. I just love that. I don't know why. Something about the simplicity of just round links, just very cool, right? And these are pretty good size links too. What is that? 0.9 millimeters. So that's almost 18 gauge. The width, the thickness of the links. SFC 051 with a retail price of $11.95 and a wholesale price of $7.24. Here's a tiny version of that chain we just looked at, right? So it's about a 22 gauge wire that it's made with these little tiny links. Lovely. Here's one. I call it a pinched oval, right? These pinched oval, they're flat, but they're it's just an oval, and then if you take them and if you pinched, you know, the middle, kind of pinch those together, they look like a peanut also. Let's make sure that's properly pronounced. SFC 053 with a retail price of $29.57 and a wholesale price of $17.90 a foot is your price for this lovely peanut chain. We'll call it pinched oval. Less chance for accidentally calling it something else or mispronouncing it as something else. Little round oval links in between these lovely flat pinched oval links. Very nice. Here's one with another flat links, SFC 054A, which means we must have had a 054 something else at one point. Maybe the links became a different size. $33.12 is the retail price per foot, and $20.05 is the wholesale price per foot. Look at these. God, just gorgeous. Look at these great big open links, oval links that are hammered, with that hammered texture and the plain loops in between, right? Super gorgeous. And, you know, really versatile too. You know, the other nice thing with this is that, you know, if you get a couple feet of this and you find that you only need whatever, so many things, you can just cut these apart and use these pieces, right, as components and other things, right? Like you can see like dangling a bead off there with a head pin and then an ear wire off there. Just like a simple, super simple earring with that lovely flat, you know, hammered things. People pay big money for that kind of stuff. I know, because I used to make them. And the last one today, SFC 055 with a retail price of $47.65 and a wholesale price of $28.84. And wait, let me just back up a minute. So on this chain, right, I'm talking about taking these links off, right? How many, let's see this, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. So it's more than 24 links thing. So it would be two. Let me see. I'm putting me on the spot doing this math in my head. $33.12 is a retail price. And so I'm trying to figure out how much per link. So $33 divided by 28 is, call it so it's a little more than $1, like $1.25, we'll call it. It's not that. It's probably way less, $1.17. Off the top of my head. I'm not going to do the math in my head. But if I bought like 16 gauge wire and bent them into ovals like this and soldered them closed and then hammered them and then used them as a component, I mean, there's no way that I can do that for $1.17 each. It's just impossible. So here you go. Sometimes it's cool to use these chains as chains, but it's also a way to get some interesting components for other things. I don't know, whatever. And this too, right? Same thing. Nice big oval flat links, right? SFC 055 with a retail price of $47.65 a foot and $28.84 a foot is your retail price. So if I bought a foot of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, call it 20 links, $2 a link. Well, I think I could probably make that for $2. But it wouldn't look as good. And you wouldn't have to go through all the angst of actually making them and then, soldering them. And then when you hammer it and you soldered it, whether you had the solder joint, it wasn't perfect. So you end up with a weird little things. Well, these are perfect. Anyway, use them as individual components or use them as they're meant to be, as a chain. It's amazing as a chain. Right? Nice big flat oval links or round links, and that's it. We're done. This is all of the chains. And what time is it? Where are we good? 11:03. I know that Nelson needs to go home because he's not feeling well, so he's and I'm doing this on his phone because I don't have Facebook on my phone. I'm not putting Facebook on my phone, so neither here nor there. Yeah, so that's it, man. I can't believe we got through all the chain. We might have gone a little bit fast today, but that's okay. If you want to see any of these in person, you can always call, email thing, and I'll take a picture, email it to you, text it to you, whatever. I do use my phone for business, just not Facebook. It's not going to happen. Don't get me started. In the meantime, I will, see you next week. We'll do some cool soldering demo. So take care of yourself, take care of the planet, take care of your mental health, and we will see you next week. Alrighty, bye-bye.